Sisters, my sisters, and some brothers too, what a fantastic event this is. I am going to start by talking about violence against women. 1 out of 3 women worldwide have been subjected to violence. In Europe alone, in 46 countries, we have established about 2,000 women's shelters or refugee camps for women in their own country. To Stígamót, 9,000 women and some men have found the way because of rape and incest. Last year, 418 individuals, 10% of them men, came to Stígamót for counseling sessions, and the counseling hours were about 3,000. Now, this is clear. Whatever we have tried to do to stop violence, it was not enough. So we have to do more, and we have to do it differently. I could add here, 137 women across the world were killed each day by a partner or family member. And then I'm going to continue to talk about violence against women, and I will give you the Norwegian examples. Because the Norwegians have stretched the limits for how to save women whose lives are in danger. Did you know that in the year 2014, 817 people were living under the surface of the earth? Most of them were women with their children. And why? Because it was clear, and it was a risk assessment made by the police, the highest authority within the police, that their lives were threatened. They wouldn't get assistance if it wasn't absolutely clear that their lives were in danger. They got new identities. They had to move from their homes, from their towns to other parts of the country, or even abroad. They had to change name. They had to quit their job. They had to cut all contact with their mother, their sister, their family, their friends. They had to disappear from the surface of the earth. The same goes for their children. Everything because the Norwegians were so aware about violence against women. I would like to ask you, could you think of any other way to save those women and children? They have emergency barring orders. They have restraining and protection orders in Norway. Only 15 times ever, and only 5 men in Norway today are wearing bracelets that don't allow. Let's see that I was violated in Reykjavik. The police has the authority to order the perpetrators not to come into Reykjavik. If they do, the police will know immediately and they will be arrested. While 817 people are hiding, only 5 perpetrators threatening the lives of women are wearing those bracelets. Then I would like to widen the perspective and remind us what is out of sight is often also out of mind. 2 days ago, there was a headline in media in Iceland saying, "A woman fell from a balcony." And then it was corrected, and they said, "A woman was thrown from a balcony." The fact is that there was a man who threw the woman from a balcony, and she is now seriously injured. When we are focusing on violence of women, against women, the illustrations are usually a woman, often very popular, crying and somebody hugging her. The statistics and research are always, not always, but far too often about the survivors. Preventive work is most often aimed at women and girls. But remember that the hidden agenda is often in the illustrations. Just look at this picture of the woman who was hospitalized because of a very dangerous perpetrator. I would like you to think twice. It is very likely that 1 out of every 3 men worldwide is a perpetrator. This is very unpleasant to say, and maybe even more unpleasant to hear. Perpetrators are the real employers of Stígamót and the whole shelter movement. And always remember that behind every survivor of violence, there is a perpetrator. And that the violence committed by some men makes all men suspects. I have never understood why men aren't on the forefront in fighting violence. I would get furious if many enough women were raping men so that I would become a suspect. I would use my time to try to wake up those bloody women. Why aren't men doing this? If only we would make as much effort to go after them as we used to save the women and children, we could close down the women's shelter. This is a picture that I show very often when I'm talking. It's about the consequences of violence to the survivors. We make it everywhere, and I won't surprise you when I tell you what are the most common struggles that our women have. They are filled with shame and guilt and low self-esteem. About half of them have suicidal thoughts. They are doing self-harm. They have post-traumatic stress disorder. All this, you know. We have been talking about this during those days. But think twice. This picture is not only telling us about the struggles of women. This picture is also illustrating the harm done by perpetrators. Unpleasant, but true. There is this legal principle about that you are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. This is the cornerstone of the Icelandic justice system, and I know it's also in the other Nordic countries and the other countries around us. If it's so, if all the dismissed cases mean that the men accused are innocent, what does that make of the 9,000 women and men that have come to Stígamót to tell us about the rapes and incest? What does it tell us about them? Are they trustworthy? We have a dilemma. I refuse to say that you are innocent until proven guilty. We need to change our way of talking and acknowledge that not proven guilty doesn't mean that you are innocent at all. So, I am still talking about perpetrators. That's one of my favorite subjects. We need to bring perpetrators into daylight. We need to make them visible in our statistics. In illustrations, they need to be visible. In language, don't talk to me about violence against women. We miss a very important point, that this violence is absolutely done by men. We should, also media has a lot to learn about all this. They need to be on the agenda. We should report them, we should prosecute them, and we should sentence them. And we need, please help me, preventive work should be aimed at boys and men. And it has to be done in a positive way to get them along with us. Now I have been talking about perpetrators. I would also want to talk to you about the state. That's the other component that we are not talking about very often. We need to make the states responsible. We need to use emergency barring orders, use restraining and protection orders. And now a new picture. And if I'm honest, I have to say that I feel bad to show you this picture. I feel as I'm not telling you the truth. I feel as I'm screaming a secret that I was supposed to keep silent about. I put in this overhead 3 columns. Those are what we know about sentences in rape cases during the last 20 years, both in county courts and in Supreme Courts. And on this same overhead, I have put the numbers of women coming to Stígamót, describing that the reason why they came was that they had been raped. Well, let's look at this. If we take just by coincidence, the year 2001, in the whole country of Iceland, 4 men were sentenced in all the county courts in this country. 3 in Supreme Court. The same year, 82 women came to Stígamót because they had been raped. I have to, of course, remind you that only 10 or 13% of the people in Stígamót ever report the crimes. They don't do so because they feel shame and guilt themselves, and they don't believe in the justice system. But if they do, only 10%, 11% of the cases lead to sentences. Wherever we look, the figures are screaming. I have to say, for me, this is a violence done by the state of Iceland. I couldn't give you the latest figures from the court system. Do you know why? Because there are still cases in the court system since 2014 that they are not done with. There are women that reported rape so many years ago, and their cases have been hidden in the system for 4 years. I illustrated this overhead with a hand, and I also feel, I have to say, embarrassed to show you this hand. Why did I do it? Because I counted the rape sentences, those 20 years that I have on my list, and in 10 of the cases, in 10 of the years, it was enough with 1 hand of a woman to count all the sentences. Angela Davis said to us, how did she say it? I'm done. I will not accept the things I cannot change. I'm going to change the things I cannot accept. That's what we are doing now at Stígamót. I want to test you. I love the fiercely strong grassroots of the women's movement. I would like to test if this grassroots is here. If you are here, could you please step your feet for a moment for me? Oh, how I love it, how I love it. This is the strength of the women's movement. Oh, even though I am standing here, I'm standing here on behalf of a huge and lively grassroots. Well, we have been sitting at the kitchen table of Stígamót, whining about the situation for so long. We found 3 ways to change the system. We could report the Icelandic state to the CEDAW Commission, to the experts of Grevio that are supposed to follow up the Istanbul Convention. The 3rd thing possible to do is to sue Iceland to the Human Rights Court in Strasbourg. I would like to ask, is Guðrún Ingibjörg here somewhere? No, she said that she would probably be in court today. But she is a brilliant, young, fearless lawyer that we found, and she is willing to work with us. She said to me, you go and find the women, I will take the their cases to court. You have to find women that have reported violence, and you have a very narrow time frame. This has to have happened within the past 6 months. They have to also report the dismissal to the state attorney. If you do that, I will do the rest, she said. And I got so afraid because of this tiny time we had. But let me show you what came out of it. Could you step your feet, please, to help my sisters to do what they want to show? Let me show you how many women we got to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have so little time that I have to continue. In the European Court, class action is not allowed, but we are doing the impossible. We are going to convince them that if they have 13 cases, they will have to take us seriously. Of course, we have no idea if we succeed. They only pick up 10% of the cases, but if they do, the Icelandic state needs to pay huge fines to the women involved. Those women standing here are the grassroots feminists. They are not the anonymous women that have reported their cases. But we have made a deal with the law firm. We are paying very reasonable price for their work, but still we have 13 women, so we owe them 2.6 million krona. Tomorrow in Copenhagen, we are meeting the Nordic shelter movement, and we will discuss the other Nordic states doing exactly what we are doing in Iceland. If I can find 13 women, how many women can they find? One of the things I am so proud of in the Icelandic women's movement is that we often think one for all and all for one. Today, I want you to think 13 for all for 13. We need to finance this, and for you Icelandic women, if you send text message to the phone number 1900 with the text allar, 2,000 krona will be withdrawn from your phone bill. And remember also, my sisters, you can do it again and again. Even though I will have to sell my car, I will do it. Those women are not going to pay for the justice done. Thank you.